And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live from NGC Studios here in southern Florida. I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. Contact info, as usual, you can follow me on Twitter at @SamDavid_NGC. And Instagram at SamDavid_NGC. You can follow me on Gab at Sam Whitfield. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. We just posted the live stream up there. And thesamwhitfield.com is my new website. You can also support the show in two ways. Of course, you can go to patreon.com/Whitfield and become a patron. Or you can go to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report and support the show there using the support button. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, you can just tap on the link with your phone and go to the support link directly that way. Hey Chuck, thanks for joining the live stream. Breaking news, John McCain has passed away at age 81. Yes, welcome to the live stream as well, Bogme. I'm going to wrench you here in a bit so you can be one of my moderators. But anyway, let me get to the news story real quick. Breaking news, as I was saying, John McCain has passed on. He passed away at age 81. This from Fox News 34 minutes ago. Now I'm just reading from the headlines. Arizona Senator John McCain, a war hero who survived 5 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, served 3 decades in Congress, and went on to become the Republicans' nominee for president in 2008, died Saturday. He was 81 years old. In his last hours, McCain turned down further treatment, his family announced in a statement. McCain was diagnosed with brain cancer in July 2017. Doctors discovered the tumor during a medical procedure to remove blood clot above his left eye, which was probably from all the, from all the drone strikes and endless wars that he helped us get into. He remained upbeat after the diagnosis, flying back to Washington days after surgery with a large scar visible above his eye to partake in the Senate's healthcare debate. I greatly appreciate the outpouring of support. Unfortunately for my sparring partners in Congress, I'll be back soon, so stand by. McCain tweeted on July 20th after his diagnosis. Let's see. More on his diagnosis. Let's see. He chose to discontinue medical treatment. McCain was born in 1936 in the Panama Canal Zone, where his father was stationed in the Navy. After graduating from the Naval Academy in 1958, McCain went to Vietnam. In 1967, his A-4 Skyhawk was hit by a surface-to-air missile over Hanoi. McCain was captured by the North Vietnamese, who tortured and beat him for more than 5 years. He was in solitary confinement for several of those years. My room was fairly decent sized, I'd say about 10 by 10, McCain would later write. The door was solid, there were no windows. The only ventilation came from 2 small holes at the top in the ceiling, about 6 by 4 inches. the roof was tin and it got hot as hell. His captors offered him earlier release after learning his father was a notable naval officer, but McCain refused to leave before the other prisoners. He was released in 1973. Let's see. McCain got a taste of politics in 1976. Okay, let's see. Ooh, he replaced Barry Goldwater in 1986. Yeah, I would say that's a loss. Taking a true conservative and replacing him with a neocon. Alright, so, I could continue reading on this. Okay. Okay. According to the New York Times, McCain has made clear to the White House that he doesn't want Trump to attend his funeral and would instead prefer Vice President Mike Pence's service. McCain is survived by his wife Cindy, 7 children, and 5 grandchildren. Yeah, and this childish behavior of McCain, of not wanting the President of the United States at his funeral, is what really turns me off to him. I mean, on the one hand, with McCain, I have two minds on the subject. I do respect him greatly for the fact that he served in our armed forces and was a prisoner of war in Vietnam and gave his limb for this country. That's, that should go without saying that I appreciate that. However, after he got out of the service, he became a pure career politician. And so, given that, ladies and gentlemen, I can't really say I was a big fan of the guy politically. But I know that some people are celebrating the fact that he's gone now, and I think that's their right to free speech, obviously. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm glad that he's gone, but he was 81 and he had cancer. I'm not going to mourn him, but it is what it is. So that was the breaking news for this evening. Now, 2 other things happened this week. Actually, 3 things that happened. One is that Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, was convicted of some sort of fraud, and the Democrats and the left are going insane because they think that this pretty much means the end of Trump. And they think that Cohen's conviction somehow implicates Trump. This is not the case at all. Cohen was convicted on something that had absolutely nothing to do with the election and absolutely nothing that had to do with Russiagate either. Now, as I've said before, Russiagate was a complete, Russiagate is a complete falsehood to begin with. But let's just say, for the purposes of argument, that Russiagate is a real good thing. Okay, is a real thing. Okay? Even with all that being said, this had absolutely nothing to do with what Cohen was convicted for. And Mark Levin discusses this at length this week. He discussed this at length this week on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News. I want to play two clips from Levin. One is from May, so early in the summer, talking about how there's pretty much nothing on. There's no legal precedent to convict a sitting president. In fact, how the Department of Justice can't convict President Trump while he's sitting in office, and how there's nothing to convict for. Okay, that's the clip from May that I want to play for you right now. The second clip I'll play for you this evening is Levin's comments on the Cohen conviction and how they have absolutely nothing to do with the supposed Russiagate scandal. Okay, so here's the first clip with Levin talking about quote-unquote legal precedent against the president, or therefore for lack of. This is from back in May. This is from May 3rd of this year on the Sean Hannity show on Fox News. Cut number 1, go.
All right, as Mole's witch hunt continues, you might remember the great one, Mark Levin, right here on this show last summer, explaining the DOJ policy that says a sitting president cannot be indicted. This is something the media kind of forgets. Take a look.
It's been the position of the United States Department of Justice under Republicans and Democrats in a 1973 memorandum and an October memorandum under the Clinton administration that you cannot indict a sitting president. Not that this president would be, that's not my point. As a matter of constitutional interpretation, for 44 years, that's been the position of the Department of Justice. We've had law professors, homeless people, would-be law professors all over TV and radio talking about obstruction of justice. We've had media types talking about it. We've had members of Congress talking about it. It doesn't matter. The official position of the Justice Department is we don't charge a sitting president with a crime.
Now, Mark reiterated that point on this show just a few weeks ago. You may remember.
A sitting president's amenability to indictment and criminal prosecution. The indictment or criminal prosecution of a sitting president would unconstitutionally undermine the capacity of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned functions. Page after page after page saying a sitting United States president cannot be indicted. Now, my question is this. Did they issue another memo over there at the Justice Department reversing these two memos during the Nixon administration and the Clinton administration? No.
He joins us himself with reaction. The host of CRTV's Levin TV, the host of Life, Liberty, and Levin, the #1 show, Sunday nights, 10 Eastern, right here on the Fox News channel. I call him the great one. Mark Levin, I wanted to play that again because, as usual, on legal matters, you're ahead of the curve. You are a constitutional attorney, and our lazy, overpaid liberal activists that call themselves journalists are wrong like 99% of the time. So I want to go through this legally tonight and give you the opportunity to explain it to them yet again.
All right, Sean. This is not me speaking. This is the Department of Justice speaking. And the position of the Justice Department has not been repealed and has not been amended since the last decision on October 16, 2000. The President of the United States, this is getting way too complicated and unnecessarily so. You've got a lot of second-tier slip-and-fall lawyers all over TV spewing things they don't know. They don't understand the Constitution. They haven't studied the cases. I have. First of all, this opinion says, among other things, that grand juries and prosecutors cannot supplant Congress. They cannot supplant Congress. The only way to remove a sitting president is through the impeachment process, not through the indictment process. They cannot disable or hamstring a presidency which is what they're trying to do as I speak. A prosecutor cannot trigger the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment the purpose is not to be triggered by a prosecutor, and he can't step in and try and take advantage of it. These are things that were discussed. The president cannot properly defend himself in litigation under the Constitution as an individual American when he has time that he has to spend on official duties. Unlike so many other individuals, a president of the United States, they point out, is so unique in our constitutional system that it is enormously damaging to him because he can't focus on his defense, which is different than civil litigation, and he can't focus during that time on the nation's security and well-being. And the presidency can't function properly with these kinds of burdens. This is what the memo says. He cannot be indicted as a sitting president, period. This is why, despite all the pablum about, well, presidents have received subpoenas before, tell me, name one president who's ever been before a federal grand jury. There's never been a president in front of a federal grand jury. Ken Starr's team subpoenaed Bill Clinton for having, among other things, not sex so much with an intern in the Oval Office, but lying about litigation that was taking place. And he was subpoenaed, and he decided to do a video. So here's my advice to the President of the United States, who didn't seek it, and to his lawyers. Focus. You're making this too complicated. The Constitution is on the side of the President. The Department of Justice's own position, which you can brief yourselves, is on the side of the President of the United States. Historical precedent is on the side of the President of the United States. Legal precedent is on the side of the President of the United States. Stop listening to all the babbling, pleading the fifth, and should he sit down with a subpoena? I would say, if I were the President's lawyer to Mr. Mueller, we want you to present us with an explanation of your defiance of the Department of Justice policy, which you are required to follow as an employee of the Department of Justice. Moreover, we want to understand how it is that you believe that you can burden a president like this while he's in office. And while I'm at it, Sean, we seem to have a few Republicans in the Senate who are very confused about these things, who have voted to protect Mr. Mueller rather than protect the office of the presidency, the Constitution, and the American people. And they seem to think that they have the power, even though we have separation of powers, to tell a president who he can hire and who he can fire. The part of the problem the president has is he's dealing with ignoramuses, both inside his party and outside his party, and some of whom are dressed up as lawyers. So I would take this all the way to the United States Supreme Court. I would make Mueller and his band of Democrat prosecutors make their case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. If they try to subpoena him in any way to appear before a federal grand jury, and make them make their case against their own Department of Justice, against Supreme Court precedent, and against the Constitution of the United States. And if it takes 6 months, it takes 6 months. And if it takes 6 years, then by God, it takes 6 years. We're not just talking about the president, which would be enough. We're talking about protecting the office of the presidency, separation of powers. And when you look at those 49 areas of questions, there's not a single criminal statute. There's not a single obstruction. What has been obstructed? They're not investigating Russia? What is it that they're not investigating that they don't want to investigate? No. They want to know his intent on whether he obstructed. They want to treat him like they treated Martha Stewart. Well, guess what? He's the president, Mr. Mueller. This isn't one of your failed anthrax cases or one of your failed Whitey Bulger cases. This is the president of the United States. You know what that means? We, the people, have a stake in this. We, the people, get to decide. The framers decided the only way you remove a president is through the body politic, through the House and the Senate, and it's a heavy burden, not by some rogue prosecutor with a bunch of Democrat prosecutors. They don't get to do it, and the people need to rise up and demand that this go all the way to the Supreme Court to put these rogue prosecutors in their place.
Now, the reason why I play this clip, why I play this first clip, is to show that Mark is absolutely right. There's nothing that Mueller can do. He can't actually try and convict Trump of anything while he's in office. He can, go for impeachment hearings, maybe, but even so, someone brought this up to me last night. Clinton wasn't impeached or removed. I mean, he was impeached, but he wasn't even removed from office. He was allowed to continue his term as president. And like I've said before in previous programs, what exactly is this whole Russia thing about? Okay? The media keeps talking about Russia and, interference from Russia in the election and Trump's collusion with Russia as if it's already a, unknown fact that happened. And it's not. At this point, it's a theory at best. And not even that. A theory would assume that they have some sort of evidence as to collusion. They don't even have that. They just have a theory at this point. They have nothing more than a guess as to what the collusion is about. As I asked last week, okay, the New York Times wants to... the New York Times keeps writing about, well, Trump colluded with Russia, and there's evidence of it. Okay, well then, what exactly is the evidence? We can't. We don't know what the evidence is, but there's evidence. Okay, show me the evidence. No. Why not? Is it that hard? I'm doing an impression of the collective media too. This is another thing too. Every time you ask like anyone on the left or what the evidence for Russian collusion is, well, it just seems so improbable that he won the election. So there must have been interference. So again, this goes back to my whole theory that all this Russiagate crap it's just Hillary Clinton trying to mess with the democratic process. Remember, she was terrified. Remember back during the election, she was saying that if Trump lost, he would try to, question the voting process, and that would make him dangerous. Remember when she said that? It was like a big thing for a while. It was right before the election. Well, guess what? Now she's questioning the voting process, and because of her questioning, and because of her team's questioning that, she's, by her own logic, she's interfering with democracy. Yeah, and I'm reading some of the comments. Collusion doesn't even sound, collusion doesn't even sound that devious, as Jacob said. Brian says, "Show me your penis." Oh, Brian, you want Hillary Clinton to show you her dick? That's disgusting, my good sir. No one needs to see that. But in all seriousness, I'm getting sick and tired of this collusion thing. Of this whole thing of Russia was involved in the election. I'm honestly getting sick of it. I don't even think Republicans were this hell-bent with the Obama birther thing. I mean, do you guys remember the Obama birth certificate thing? When there were a few like right-wing conspiracy theorists who were talking how Obama was born in July. I mean, who was born? That he was born in not July. That he was born in Kenya. That was a conspiracy, and at first I don't believe that Obama was born in a foreign country. I do believe that he was born in the U.S. I have questions about Obama's ties to radical Islam, but as far as the birth thing, I think that was crazy. But even most conspiracy theorists, after like a year and a half, let that thing go. It wasn't a big thing, and yet we're close to 500 days, and yet Trump is still being inspected under magnifying glass by all these creeps in the media saying, oh, there's collusion with Russia with no evidence whatsoever. So, let's see. So, we know the Russia thing is fake, but what did they end up finding out in this whole collusion thing? Well, we found out that Michael Cohen's lawyer, that Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, lied to the FBI about stuff not related to the Trump-Russia scandal, quote-unquote. And we also know now that he was in trouble for his taxes, too. Jacob says, July, Kenya, time, place, same thing. So, yeah. Folks, if I seem a little off tonight, it's because I am. I am a little off tonight, and I don't know exactly why. Part of it is we've had really bad red tide here in Florida. In fact, it's made national news about how bad the red tide is. And my allergies, they were kind of driving me crazy today. So if I seem a little out of it, it's allergies. But even so, bear with me. I'm glad I've got 4 live listeners, and I'm sure people will enjoy listening to the audio version of this too. So as I was saying, what did we find out in this Trump, in this Mueller investigation? We found out that Michael Cohen was corrupt. But that's not really a surprise, is it? So here's Levin talking about, So here's Levin talking about, damn it, Brian. Well, my pants are on, but they won't be off. But they won't be on for long after the show. So, oh yeah, but I am on Stitcher as well. Anyway, Trump's lawyer Cohen has been convicted for crap that doesn't even relate to the Russia investigation. So, that's nice to know that after 500 days we found out that Trump's lawyer was corrupt, which, let's be honest, most lawyers are corrupt. And if you have a lawyer named Michael Cohen, I mean, doesn't the name Michael Cohen, it sounds like a mob lawyer, just inherently. So, but let's see what the Mueller investigation has brought up with Cohen. So here's Levin talking about that earlier this week from August 21st. Clip number 2. Go. I thought I had the file loaded. Let's see. I'm just reading the comments right now while I'm finding the clip. Let's see. Is the BP thing causing this red tide? No. Well, Jacob, I don't know what it is. It's some bacteria regarding yeah. Any of you folks hear about Mollie Tibbets? Yes, I'll be getting to Mollie Tibbets after this after a few more clips tonight. I don't have the American Watchman Roundtable podcast tonight, so I'm going to do a little bit of an extended show tonight. So yeah, we'll get to Mollie Tibbets here later in the program. I haven't had a good long program for a while, so we'll be doing one tonight. Anyway, though, here is Mark Levin talking about Michael Cohen's conviction and how it has absolutely nothing to do with the Trump Russiagate scandal. Cut number 1. Go.
Right here with reaction to all of today's breaking news. He's the host of the #1 show, Sunday nights, 10 Eastern, Life, Liberty, Levin, right here on the Fox News Channel, host of CRTV's Levin TV. We call him the Great One for a reason, Mark Levin. All right, Mark, I mean, there are some lessons here. I agree that you shouldn't lie to the FBI. Everyone agrees with that. I also agree that you should pay your taxes. I also agree that you better not lie in a bank loan application. Mark, how did we get from Russia and that this is it after we're almost at 500 days?
All right, I want to address Michael Cohen. How did we get to that? I want to help the law professors, the constitutional experts, the criminal defense lawyers, the former prosecutors, and, of course, the professors. I want to help them understand what the law is. The general counsel for the Clinton mob family, Lanny Davis, he had his client plead to 2 counts of criminality that don't exist. These campaign finance violations that all over TV they're saying implicates the President of the United States directly. First, let's back up. It is a guilty plea. It is a plea bargain between a prosecutor and a criminal who doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison. That is not precedent. That applies only to that specific case. Nobody cites plea bargains for precedent. That's number 1. Number 2, just because a prosecutor says that somebody violated a campaign law doesn't make it so. He's not the judge. He's not the jury. We didn't adjudicate anything. It never went to court. That's number 2. A campaign expenditure under our federal campaign laws is an expenditure solely for campaign activity. A candidate who spends his own money or even corporate money for an event that occurred not as a result of the campaign, it is not a campaign expenditure. Let me give a few examples to help people understand this, especially the American people. Let's say, I wrote these down. Let's say a candidate had said, we owe vendors a whole lot of money. We've had disputes with them, but I want you to go ahead and pay them. I'm a candidate. I don't want all this negative publicity. So he says to his private lawyer, you pay them, I'll reimburse you, get it done. Is that illegal? It's perfectly legal. Yet according to the prosecution of the Southern District of New York, it's paid at the direction of the candidate to influence an election. Yes, Mr. Prosecutor, how stupid is your point? It's not a crime. More. Let's say this candidate settles a lawsuit that was a...
So, in other words, this had absolutely nothing to do with the election, what Cohen got convicted for. Okay, let's just break that down right there. Levin pretty much just said that what Cohen got convicted for had absolutely nothing to do with election, and had absolutely nothing to do with campaign finance, since Trump paid for most of Cohen's services with his own private money. It's almost like the media has forgotten that Trump was, a multi-billionaire before becoming president. Then again, I know I'm an older millennial, and, I actually remember when Trump was a cool badass. I also remember when everyone liked Trump, it seemed like. And even when Al Sharpton was liking Trump. Remember that? I'll pull up photos of that later in Google search. Okay, word around the campfire. Trump's getting ready to pardon Manafort. The shame. The shame. No, well, I mean, it's just a rumor at this point. I mean, Apple had rumors a few years ago that they would have a phone that would just connect directly to my brain. And yet, they haven't invented that yet. So, it's all rumor mills at this point. But anyway, as Levin was saying, Cohen's conviction had absolutely nothing to do with the election. So, let's find out what Cohen was actually up to. Continuing on.
Before he becomes a candidate, and he says to his personal lawyer, I want you to settle that lawsuit, you can use my corporate funds, my private funds, whatever it is. That is perfectly legal too. The prosecutor would say, but that influenced the election. So what? There's certain things you do that influence an election that are legal, certain things you do that influence an election that are illegal. Let's say a candidate gets a non-disclosure agreement from a disgruntled employee. He wants to quiet that disgruntled employee as he goes into the election. He pays the funds out of his pocket or through his corporation. Perfectly legal. Nothing here was spent out of the campaign. Nothing was done with the campaign or to the campaign. This is exactly what the federal law is. And Mr. Lanny Davis had his client plead guilty to 2 offenses that aren't offenses, that the prosecutor insisted were offenses. That's why he's no good. That is Michael Cohen against Donald Trump. Donald Trump's in the clear. Let's say Donald Trump even directed Michael Cohen to make payments in non-disclosure agreements. So what? He's allowed to do that. Now, here's my question. Has the Southern District of New York ever paid money in a non-disclosure agreement with any of its employees? How about any U.S. Attorney's Office in the United States? How about the Department of Justice? How about any business? How about any union? How about the DNC? How about members of Congress? It's done all the time. But call it hush money. And all of us, hush money. Oh, they can't pay hush money. Well, it is hush money. It's legal. It's a contract. It's done all the time. Now, what does Mr. Mueller have left? It's work. He's chasing the Manhattan Madam. Who the hell's the Manhattan Madam? I don't know. He's interviewing. He's dragging her in front of the grand jury. What's next? The Manhattan Madam. He's got Manafort where he wants him on banking charges. He's set up a few guys like Flynn, who's gotten in trouble. Now they have Cohen. What do they have? They have nothing. I'll tell you what they have. Mr. Mueller, as a federal prosecutor, is preparing his impeachment report, which is an unconstitutional activity. Mr. Mueller is supposed to be non-political. He's not supposed to be preparing impeachment reports. Mr. Mueller, I told you before, You can't indict a sitting president. I told you that 15 months ago. Now you figured it out. You and Rosenstein figured it out. Now you and Rosenstein are trying to figure out what to do with the subpoena. You see, Sean, Giuliani was on your show the other day, or somebody's show. He said, why do they take 2 or 3 weeks? I'll tell you why they take 2 or 3 weeks. Because Mr. Mueller has to consult Mr. Rosenstein, his boss, to figure out what to do with this subpoena. I'll tell you what happens when they issue that subpoena. The President of the United States takes it all the way to the Supreme Court, and what does he cite? Department of Justice memos. What else does he cite? The Constitution of the United States. So this is going to be an impeachment battle in the end. The President of the United States, if he doesn't get involved in the perjury trap, think about that. They don't have a crime. He needs this interview to create a crime against the President of the United States, this prosecutor. Well, that's pretty damn outrageous. So in any event, I want the news media to understand, you know what took place in the Southern District of New York? Nothing that matters. Zippo.
Mark,
there was no violation of federal campaign laws. Lanny Davis blew it. Lanny Davis, he puts out a tweet today. Today, Cohen stood up and testified under oath that Donald Trump directed him to commit a crime. You're a dummy, Lanny, by making payments to 2 women for the principal purpose of influencing an election. If those payments were a crime for Michael Cohen, then why would they be a crime for Donald Trump? They weren't a crime for Michael Cohen. He screwed himself, and they're not a crime for Donald Trump either. Now move along and go back into your corner with Hillary Clinton.
So what we have found now, after 2 years almost, is that, you know, Cohen might have screwed himself, Manafort might have screwed himself, but basically, the prosecution team, Mueller. See, this is how bad everything is getting. I'm even forgetting Mueller's name, or Mueller, however the hell you pronounce his name now. Mueller has spent 2 years going after Trump, and he has nothing to show for it. And by the way, isn't all this stuff being like funded by the taxpayers indirectly, since it is because you know, at this point Mueller's wasting public money. So at some point Trump's gotta say, all right, you're out, bye, see you later, asshole. I mean, the left has been flipping out and saying if Trump fires Mueller, that's, you know, automatically like a sign of his guilt or whatever. No, it's not. I mean, Levin has just proven that basically everything that Mueller has found is false. Here's the thing. By the time Mueller finds anything, Trump will have already finished. Yes, finished. Not his first term, but his second term. I bet it will take 2024 for Mueller to actually find anything on Trump. I'm using the big bad L word again. What? Litigation? Yeah, well, I mean, logic is a bad word too, but yeah, so is litigation. And in Trump's case, there is absolutely no litigation going on. So yeah, this. Anyway, let's finish this clip. I do want to go on to Mollie Tibbets later because I do have some opinions about that, especially since that is a kind of a controversial topic now, I guess. But anyway, I want to finish up this clip from Levin. So, clip number 3, go.
Well, obviously, he's a huge Clinton sycophant. So this 2016 campaign, we're, 77 days out, is now becoming, as I have said for a long time, it's about impeachment, keeping Obamacare, them wanting their crumbs back, eliminating ICE, open borders, and stopping the investigation into what I say is the biggest abuse of power. Here's what I want to ask you. So we now have Hillary Rodham Clinton obstructing, violating the Espionage Act, no indictment. We now have her paying for what turns out to be a foreign entity, a foreign agent, putting together Russian lies that are disseminated to the American people to influence an election, lies never verified, never corroborated, then put as the bulk of information in 4 FISA warrants. Comey, Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, they all signed off, and they all said, they swore, they put their good name and credibility behind it. I don't see Comey indicted. I don't see any Hillary Clinton indictments. I don't see any crimes that are being pursued here. Barack Obama had, what, $2 million in campaign finance violations. He just paid a fine.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Interrupt on my own show.
The head of the FBI is not the head of the FBI anymore. He's a confessed leaker, and he's under investigation by the Inspector General. The deputy FBI director was fired and is under criminal investigation. Mr. Stroke, who was the head counterintelligence investigator, was fired, and he's under investigation, I believe, or will be, or should be, under investigation as well. That's the top tier of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I've never heard of anything like this before. You have a mole in the Deputy Attorney General's office who's working with Stroke, who's been fired. His wife works for the Fusion GPS, pushing out the opposition research against the President of the United States, getting it in front of the FISA court through the FBI. Bruce Orr, who served for the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. And there's tons more. You have FISA court judges that have never been held to account.
Fraud.
You had an application that was filed with the FISA court. They didn't say who paid for the opposition research that was used to violate their rules.
I got to run, Mark.
Yeah, we need a special counsel now for that.
You know, some great, smart constitutional lawyer once wrote a book, and in the book he said this is a post-constitutional America. Oh, that was you. We're there.
Yep, we sure are. I agree with Sean's sentiments fully. We're also... It's strange. I said this a few weeks ago, but do you remember how, the Democrats and Obama were laughing at Mitt Romney back in 2012 for saying that Russia was a threat? Oh, Mr. Romney, the 1980s called, and they want their foreign policy back. Reagan's not president anymore, but I'm the coolest president there was. My name's Barack Obama, and I approve this message. Obama's actually one of the few presidents I can do an impression of. It's not that hard. Anyway. Isn't it funny how the Democrats were making fun of Romney for saying that Russia was, a threat? And granted, I mean, Romney was a milquetoast candidate, and, Putin, say what you will about him, he's a strange dude. But he's not the Elliot Carver, James Bond villain that the left makes him out to be. But now in 2018, the Democrats are, everything is Russia's fault. So, let's see. Is that an imaginary mic in your hand, Sam, or something more fun? What this, Ludwig? This is my This is my like, oh, you mean this? Well, I mean, I was doing an impression of Obama. So this was my impression of Obama. So, you know, depending on how you visualize Obama, just you know, take what you will from what was in my hand. I mean, I would like to think it was a mic, but knowing you guys, it was something else. So, yeah, and Jeff, you are gonna want a lot of whiskey, especially after what I'm about ready to read you. All right, the Mollie Tibbets thing. Let's get on to that, shall we? First off, I've heard numerous inaccuracies about this. First off, I heard earlier this week that she was 24, and that doesn't appear to be the case. She was 20. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this article from Business Insider, and yeah, I'm not so sure I'm going to read the comments, especially the last one Brian read out loud on the podcast. I think if I read it out loud, that might get my podcast banned from iTunes or something like that, and I certainly don't need that. But I will say this. I envision Obama sitting in a jail cell next to Hillary for corruption with Benghazi and whatnot. That's my response, Brian. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, getting back to Mollie Tibbets. From Business Insider. No, I do not want to install System Audio. Okay, so I have an article from Business Insider. Okay. Headline: Something was off about him. Other women say Mollie Tibbets' suspected murder messaged them repeatedly on social media over the years. The man charged with first-degree murder and the death of 20-year-old Mollie Tibbets reportedly made repeated unsolicited advances on social media towards local young women. One woman told the New York Times that she once rejected Christian Bahena Riviera's advances, but he repeatedly messaged her over social media. She said she discussed Bahena Riviera with female friends, and they said he messaged them too. Something was off about him, said a 20-year-old Iowa woman who turned him down for a date. The man charged with first-degree murder and the death of a 20-year-old Mollie Tibbets made repeated unsolicited advances on social media towards local young women, according to a New York Times report, which we will not be reading because it's the New York Times. Although, to be fair, Business Insider isn't that much better. Brooke Bestall, a local 20-year-old woman, told the Times she once turned him down when he asked her out on a date, but he repeatedly messaged her on Facebook late at night, though they didn't speak in person. He would just stare. He wouldn't really talk, but still said something was off about him. So, wait a minute. This is... Am I the one who's confused here? So, wait. So, if I'm... So the guy was repeatedly messaging her on Facebook. And then she said he would just stare. He wouldn't really talk. So were they video conferencing or like, you know, just messaging each other? I'm confused. Later, Alana, thanks for tuning in. Am I the one who's confused by that? Maybe the article has something further on that. Okay. But still said he would just message her over and over, like, every week or so. She said the most recent message came June 13th at 3 a.m. After Bahena Riviera was arrested, two of Bastille's friends told her that he had also messaged them, and that Bastille said she wondered how many other girls he was trying to talk to. Bahena Riviera is jailed on $5 million cash bond after prosecutors alleged he abducted Tibbets while she was out for an evening run in Brooklyn on July 13th, killed her, and disposed of her body in a cornfield. Preliminary autopsy results from the state medical examiner's office found Tibbets died from multiple sharp force injuries. Law enforcement officials and Bahena Rivera's employer told the Times the suspect seemed like a hard-working and law-abiding presence in the community, who was often seen in the local park and grocery store. Authorities said Bahena Riviera and Tibbets have no known connection beyond that he allegedly told investigators that he had seen her running previously. Okay, then if they have no connection, if they had no connection here, folks, and believe me, I'm not blaming Tibbets for anything. You know, it's horrible that she was murdered, but so they didn't know each other, and yet the way Facebook works is you have to be friends with someone for them to message you, right? I mean, I know that there's that spam folder. There's like that hidden spam folder where, like, you know, spammy people can message you, but like for someone to pop in your main messenger, I'm pretty sure that you have to be friends with someone, right? So why would all these women friend this guy that they don't even know? I mean, tangentially. I mean, did one of them know him and this guy was popping up on everyone's, you know, suggested friends list? Anyway. That element doesn't really matter. I'm just... Yeah, I'm just wondering. Yeah, Jeff, you just hit it right on the head, Jeff. She was a pretty young lady, he was a fucking rapist. There's your connection. Yep. Okay, getting back to the story, though. The case has rocked the small town and dominated political discussion after President Donald Trump jumped on the news that Riviera was allegedly in the country illegally and called for stricter immigration laws, calling current laws a disgrace. The Tibbets family has hit back at the illegal immigration discussion surrounding the case. Oh boy. The heavy coverage of the Tibbets case has sparked online discussion over a recorded 48 minimum 48 Iowa juveniles who went missing in July. Though the nerve-wracking statistic circulated online, officials told USA Today it was within expected rates. Okay. So, yeah, that's the article, ladies and gentlemen. Now, like I said, it doesn't really make sense to me how they were connected on Facebook. Like, if they didn't know each other that well, I mean, they had to have known each other to be connected on Facebook. You know, or maybe Mollie is like a lot of these girls who just like, you know, and not just girls, but millennials in general who just, you know, friend people on Facebook who are in the suggested area. I don't know. And again, I'm not blaming her, obviously. Don't take my comments out of context. What happened to her is obviously horrible. But I mean, the social media thing does weird me out a bit. That's all I'm gonna say. As far as the illegal immigration debate, one of the things that a lot of conservatives have said that I don't agree with. Not all conservatives, but a lot on social media have been saying, "Oh, well, Mollie Tibbets was a Trump-hating liberal." In fact, this was one thing that Milo posted today, which I usually agree with Milo on a lot, but he said, I hope, he said something on Twitter, and I think it was on Facebook, I think it was jokingly, but even so it was pretty disingenuous. He said, "I hope Mollie Tibbets burns in hell because she was a flaming leftist." Now, I get that Milo is a provocateur and whatnot, but, you know, dude, that's just not cool. I mean, so look, I get it. She was a liberal. You know, lots of things have come up on her Twitter that she hated Trump. And yeah, I get the irony that she was, you know, saying that illegal immigrants are good, and I get the irony that she was killed by someone, but still, it is horrible, and I think the guy should get the death penalty. So, you know, people want my opinion on this. You know, here's what I'm going to say. I don't think the fact that she was a liberal, you know, really changes anything. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't change anything for me. Yeah, Brian, you're absolutely right. What I'm hoping is that liberals will, you know, change their view on this. Let's see. Okay, Bogme has a good point. Here's the thing about Milo. At least, he became famous before he was a provocateur, from giving good interviews with backing up clients. The wild and crazy stuff was secondary. Yeah, Bogme, I agree with you. Speaking of, folks, I know that a lot of you don't know who Bogme is, so in case any of you are curious, Bogme is a podcaster who I connected with on Gab. And no, he's not alt-right. He's a constitutional conservative like I am. He's one of the few non-alt-right people on Gab, surrounded in a sea of alt-right people, just like I am. He hosts a really good show on Thursday nights called The Neighborhood Podcast, which streams on YouTube and Gab. So I recommend that you check that out, and it's also on Apple Podcasts if you search The Neighborhood Podcast. And we're going to do a collaboration podcast at some point. I'm going to have him on my show. We haven't set a date yet, but we're going to do that. So, you know, he's been here for the show, and I really appreciate him being here, and I just wanted to give him a quick shout out. So, anyway, I guess that was our quick, I guess that was a quick break. Well, yeah, Bogme, I mean, here's the thing about alt-right. When I first heard the term alt-right, like, I thought it was just like an anti-establishment term. I thought it was a term just meaning like anti-establishment, you know, conservative, kind of like alternative right. And then Richard Spencer had to go and hijack the thing and turn it into a white nationalist mantra, and then the left's got a hold of it, and you know, I don't dig Richard Spencer. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean I've shat on Richard Spencer plenty of times on this channel. I don't need to go on another rant. But I will say this. I hope one of Milo's boyfriends corners Richard Spencer in a dark alley at some point. So, read into that what you will. Let's see. The focus needs to be on this guy breaking immigration laws, but the conservative media will get it wrong, of course. Let's see. So we're calling Kimmy Gimme now. Okay, now I'm just reading through the comments. So I'll tell you, politics is getting weird. I mean, it's been weird, but it's getting weirder. Oh, so let's go on to our next story now that we're kind of, you know, BSing. Over the past 3 weeks now, I've been talking about Alex Jones being banned from social media, and I'm not going to repeat my whole spiel on that exactly. If you guys want, you can tune into my other 2 shows that I've done about that. Those are on Apple Podcasts and you know, YouTube and everywhere else. But I will say this: Bill Maher. I will admit I have to applaud Bill Maher because last Friday, or no, it was this previous Friday, on his show, he stood up for Alex Jones and said that free speech applies for everyone. There was a big panel on his show, and he actually got into a debate with a lot of these SJW liberals who were saying, thank God that Alex got banned from social media. And, you know, like I said, I think Bill Maher is a moron on most stuff, but, you know, when it comes to free speech, at least he's consistent. So, let's see. let's see. Here's Bill Maher on the banishment of Alex Jones from social media. Clip number 4. No, clip number 3. Go.
I will never live that.
Okay,
Yes. I will never.
That's your America is not that great.
Right? I am now officially excommunicated.
All right. So I want to talk about free speech for a minute because Alex Jones, who is not my friend and who tells crazy lies about me, is thrown off Twitter, I think, and Facebook and a few other platforms. I think he's going to...
Thank God!
Well... If you're a liberal, you're supposed to be for free speech. That's free speech for the speech you hate. That's what free speech means. We're losing the thread of the concepts that are important to this country. Either you care about the real American shit or you don't. And if you do, it goes for every side. I don't like Alex Jones, but Alex Jones gets to speak. Everybody gets to speak.
Sure, but he doesn't necessarily get to speak on Facebook or Twitter.
No, I get that.
If a guy goes out, and this is not opinion, if he engages in vile slander and fabrication about about children who were murdered at Sandy Hook, and he harasses the parents of children who were murdered at Sandy Hook, that's not... You know what? Facebook, Twitter... None of them have an obligation to provide him a platform.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah.
But
and even more importantly, this is not the internet of 1996 where you put up a website and he's using like the public pipes. Like these companies, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, these are the majority of time Americans spent on the internet, right? We're talking for the internet. This is ABC, CBS, NBC, right? And they're making money off of him. They're running ads against him. So I agree with you about free speech, and that's of concern to me as well. I also don't think those companies should be profiting off of what he's saying. And so
we all agree on that. That private enterprise does not have any obligation.
Right.
If you make a T-shirt that says "Your mother sucks cocks in hell,"
Right.
They don't have to sell it at Baby Gap. We get that. Okay, but I'm just saying.
Okay, here's the problem though, is Facebook and Twitter and all these social media websites pretty much own a monopoly on communication. Right? They're pretty much all monopolies in terms of social media communication. And so when they're collectively all banning Alex Jones and taking off, they're pretty much cutting off his ability to share his media with people on a large scale and grow his business and grow his base. So, Bill Maher's arguments, comparing that, to comparing, forcing Alex Jones to stay on Twitter to, selling pornographic t-shirts at Baby Gap, that comparison, while funny, is not going to fly because, you really can't compare the two. Gap does not have a monopoly on where clothing designers can, sell their stuff. Facebook and Twitter and all these social media websites, they do have a monopoly on this shit. So, that argument is stupid, but I do agree with Bill Maher's initial, thing that free speech should be for everyone. And, so, good on Bill Maher for saying that, but, the Adam ruins everything guy, he is annoying. So, yeah, the sports coats are bad too. Really bad. I actually have Adam Conover's I have that blazer in blue, and it looks a lot better. So, anyway. Oh, also, someone in the comments mentioned Owen Benjamin here a little while ago, right? Eric, was that you who mentioned Owen on the stream earlier? Because it's time for a little... I haven't talked to Owen Benjamin in a while. As some of you may know, I was a fan of his earlier this year, and then I wasn't once some of his lackeys went after me for defending John Neary, who is another YouTuber who Owen's little opening act slandered and called racist. Well, long story short, Owen Benjamin, in my opinion at least, has gone from being an actual conservative to basically just a petty celebrity who's jealous that he's losing his grip on show business. So, it was you, Jeff. And someone sent me this clip today, and Owen Benjamin was talking crap about Joe Rogan and Burt Kreischer on his podcast last night, and they were all talking about how Owen has turned into an alt-right comedian, and Owen made this really distasteful response, basically slamming his former friends, really, it seemed like, to me. And he called them all losers. And a whole lot more. So I do want to play a few excerpts of this video that Owen put up. I know I know that a lot of you don't want to watch this, but let's just go through this. Let me respond to Owen. So, okay, Owen, if you're watching this, this is for you. I know that you're upset that that Joe Rogan won't have you back on the show. I know you're upset about that. But I don't think you're handling things too well, dude. I really don't. Anyway, here's clip number 5. I won't say go because Jeff is kind of calling me out about it. I do realize that I'm saying it as myself, by the way, Jeff. It's more for the audio podcast listeners that I say that. So anyway, here is Owen's overreaction to people not even really criticizing him, but making jokes about him. And I thought Owen was supposed to be all for making jokes. So anyway, clip number 4, go. Yeah, there it is.
Yes, that's right. Number 1 racist comic in America. Move over, Owen Benjamin.
Well, you can't work in Hollywood. No one's even going to talk to you.
But
you couldn't say, like, look what happened. Even just like
I don't disagree. I hadn't thought it through.
But imagine that. Like, imagine if you are conservative.
If you're a pro-Trump comedian,
here, right.
There are people out there who
but
will
not
buy your
pro-Trump.
stuff.
You could have voted for somebody and also not be really give a fuck about him.
Right, but why are there no... Is this somebody? Why are there no right-wing political comedians?
Isn't it?
There's another guy who's Nick DiPaolo. He's gotten super right wing though, and I think that it's hurt him, right?
And then there's also he kind of went off.
Okay, wrong, Whitney. Nick DiPaolo is kicking ass right now. And by the way, I have a feeling that Owen is going to turn on him soon because as Owen is losing patrons, Nick DiPaolo seems to be gaining patrons for his premium. Yeah, I ought to say roll. And by the way, I know that Owen has said that Whitney looks like a melted candle, but I don't know. I mean, I know that she's liberal, but I don't know. She's kind of hot in my book. So, but anyway, continuing on.
Over the deep end, but Owen Benjamin.
Yeah,
Owen's too far out there. Owen's just looking. Owen's kind of like...
Well, I think...
He seems like Roseanne's son a little bit, but out in the woods.
No.
If I'm Roseanne's son, he's the son of like... I can't even just... Like if you go into a swamp and you see like something move, but you don't know what animal it is. Like that. Like, you ever go into a swamp and you see, like, a rustle, like a movement, but you don't know what animal it was? You're like, what the hell was that? Theo's the son of that.
But isn't he, like...
Okay, so Owen couldn't even come up with a good analogy for that. Now, Bogby, I'm going to let you in on a little story, and for the fellow DZers who are with me, you've all been there for this, so... feel free to fill in any gaps for me. But, so Owen Benjamin used to be relatively conservative when I first encountered his stream. And he seemed to be talking out all of the, conservative stuff like constitutional values and whatnot. But then he went off on some really weird thing how the entirety of Hollywood is out to get me because, I got kicked out of Hollywood for, talking how trans kids are bad, and, Hollywood's been trying to get at me ever since. So, he went off on that whole spiel. Then his opening act, who I'm not even going to mention because his opening act for his stand-up comedy isn't even worth mentioning. But the opening act for Owen's comedy went after a friend of mine, a friend of ours, in the Danger Zone, and called this guy a racist. Called my friend a racist. And this was Owen's opening act. And this wasn't true. So we tried telling Owen that his opening act was, slandering us and doing crazy things. But then Owen decided to, rather than investigate the evidence that we were presenting him, he chose to call us all crazy. And then he was making fun of a disabled comedian who just made a joke about Owen's stand-up career not taking anyone else and taking off, and Owen made some really low brow. They weren't really even jokes, but they were basically low blows. So then I tried confronting Owen about that, and his kind of his cult fans who are cult-like, they came after me. And now he's just even going after Joe Rogan, who, if you want my opinion, Joe Rogan's not conservative, but he's more conservative than most other comedians in Hollywood. So, well, Brian, you said the opening act's name in the chat. Well, yeah, I see all the comments, but we're not supposed to announce that yet, are we? We'll get to that in a few weeks. All right. Anyway, I'm going back. So.
Men's rights activist or a white power activist or I'm probably spreading rumors, but
No, it's gotten a little bit bizarre.
he's also like trashing comics. Like, get out of here.
He trashes comics. Like, get out of here, she says, attacking Owen. I know, right? The irony is not lost on me, guys. Don't sweat that. It's called postmodernism. They believe in nothing except power acquisition. So when you say this comic is such a white power guy, he trashes comics. At that point, you realize these people stand for nothing. We stand for nothing, Lebowski.
Yeah, it's just gotten, I think...
Okay, well, if you were upset with Whitney for trashing you, then why did you spend 3 hours on Twitter last night under a fake account, but we all know it's you, trashing trashing Whitney and Joe Rogan and Bert Kreischer? I mean, are you the guy who is like, do as I say, not as I do? That's what you're becoming like, dude. Hate to say it.
Some of it's gotten a little bit, some desperation that happens when you aren't here.
Yeah.
But
It's interesting when someone says someone's desperate, who literally fucked a one-legged stranger on Craigslist, and he didn't know she had one leg until the lights were on the next day. Good times. All right, let's read some super chats. A one-legged stranger. Listen, I've had some sex in my life with some people that I didn't love, but I always knew they had two.
Bogme, you brought up a good point. Counterpunching. That is Owen's favorite excuse. I'm counterpunching. Okay, counterpunching is when you try and use logical arguments against someone, and I realize things have changed, but I ascribe to the Andrew Breitbart book of counterpunching, which is that you counterpunch with logic and whatnot. You don't need to get down on someone's level to counterpunch. Okay? I come from the Breitbart Limbaugh school of conservatism. So, which is obviously different than what Owen comes from. Yeah. Counterpunching, donkey punching, giving dirty Sanchez's. I don't even want to know what that last thing involves, Jacob.
Legs. They were never off Craigslist. And, I mean, it's just, that's a level of depravity and desperation and weird. 2 legs are...
So Owen, you're saying that having sex with one-legged people is offensive? You're saying that's bad? So, I guess vets who got their legs blown off and now only they have one leg, or in that case, or in some cases, they got both their legs blown off. You're saying that, having sex with legless people is, depraved. But, yeah. Well, I mean, Bogey, his sketches with Crowder are pretty funny. But, we'll invite you to the danger zone, thing. And, we'll share our stories off air more. But, anyway, continuing on.
Better than one. You could have sex with one-legged person. You can fall in love with a one-legged person. I'm not mocking the one leg, guys. It's that you didn't know she only had one leg. That means you didn't. Not only do you not have a conversation, you don't even do a quick analysis of someone's body before putting your cock in it. Not anymore, BB. I'm done with him. You don't have to be done with Theo. Want to hear the craziest fucking thing? And for any of you motherfuckers that out there that are like, oh, Big Bear is so emotional, he really keeps a grudge. I still like Theo Von. And that's not battered wife syndrome. I find him funny. I know exactly why he did that. I know exactly the weakness that made him do that. I know he doesn't believe it. I think he's a pussy, but he's funny. I'm glad he exists. I think underneath it all, he's a good guy. I've had great times with him. I enjoy being around him. I feel the same way about Bert Kreischer. This isn't even that personal. It's like, I like some of these dudes. I like Joe Rogan. I just think they're fucking they've just become pussies.
I wanted to talk to you about social media, okay? Because I love you. I love you too. I think you're a very good guy. I really do. But you are the worst.
This Rogan podcast, by the way, was the first time I had heard about Owen Benjamin, by the way. This was the podcast I heard about Owen Benjamin on. And also, and if you don't have, but if you have no grudge with these guys, then why are you making like a 10-minute video on these people? Just saying.
Just representative of yourself on social media.
They don't realize, okay, he's sitting down with a girl, Whitney Cummings, who can't name a single person who veers right in comedy. That being said, when it was,
she did name Nick DiPaolo, and I mean, I could name a few others. Dennis Miller, obviously, my favorite. I mean, Mike Loftus, my friend Mike Loftus, who's a comic. People have said I'm kind of a comic. I don't know about that. I just do funny live streams sometimes. I try and keep things light. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, why make a... I guess just here's my point. If you're still friends with these people, then why are you, making a whole big response? I just thought I would play this response because some of the people in the danger zone were, asking me about it. So anyway, hey Rummy, thanks for tuning in. Long time no see. How you doing? And okay, well I'm not gonna play the entirety of this clip. But yeah, you get the point. I just don't get why Owen is bashing on these people who are supposedly his friends. Well, I mean, I do. But I mean, why would you bash on your friends like that? Just doesn't make sense. Anywho, well, I think that'll do it for tonight's show. It's about 10:30, so I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. As always, you can support me on Patreon by going to patreon.com/Whitfield, or by signing up for the podcast via Anchor and supporting us there at anchor.com/Whitfield Report. And as always, you can follow me on social media at any of these outlets. Again, Twitter and Instagram at SMDR_NGC. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. You can read my blog at thesamwhitfield.com. And, yeah. Alrighty, folks, from all of us here at NGC 1, have a good night, God bless, and God save this great nation. I'll be back next week for another edition of the Whitfield Report. Take care and God bless.